I challenged myself to play 50 game demos during this year's Steam Next Fest. Why, you might ask? Yeah, look, I don't actually have a really good reason for it. 50 seemed like a doable number, and boy, after I finished, I wish I aimed lower. A good demo can get someone who's never heard of your game into someone who's going to buy your game. And a great demo can use word of mouth to expand the reach of your game. Of course, this can be a bit of a double-edged sword. If your demo is bad, then that is a surefire way to kill any interest in your game. Which is why you really need to have confidence in your product, and probably why over the past 10 years or so, demos were really starting to become more and more uncommon. Because if you're going to market your game, it is actually just much easier to pay an influencer to pretend to like it. That was until Steam Next Fest breathed some life back into demos. If you somehow don't know what Steam Next Fest is, it is an event that happens every now and then on the Steam store aimed to highlight demos and first looks for upcoming games. For me personally, it is a good time to discover games that I may want to cover or review in the future for the channel. That is if I don't forget that I played them. Whoops. I think demos are one of the most consumer-friendly ways a developer can use to sell their game. It really is the supermarket sample tray way of selling your game. Alright, so today I have 50 demos to talk about. Some were taken from my Steam wishlist, some were chosen purely by their look, some were chosen completely by random because for some reason Steam just didn't want to load screenshots and trailers for things in the store half of the time. We're going to go through them in the order that I played them. My only rule is that I've set a hard cap of 20 minutes of time spent with each demo, and after the 20 minutes is over, I have to move on pretty much no matter what. I'll give each demo a rating out of 10 based on how much I liked it and how much I think it succeeded as a demo. There will be chapters and timestamps so you can jump around to wherever you like, so let's play some games. The first demo I played was for Demon Tides, which is a third-person adventure platformer. It's pretty much what you would get if Super Mario 64 or A Hat in Time were built with speedrunning in mind. The main character of this game has a very diverse moveset that feels very satisfying to play. And while I wasn't a big fan of the art style or the ways the characters express themselves in cutscenes, I think the gameplay of this game more than makes up for it. The game does feel like a bit of a mishmash of a whole bunch of different old school adventure platformers, but it all gels in a way that makes it fresh and unique. And this has me very excited for the full game. The 20-minute mark came at around the end of the tutorial, but the demo offers a lot more content after this, which I really did want to keep going, but in the interest of sticking to my goal, I had to move on. I mean, even if the demo ended at the end of the tutorial, which is where I left it, this is kind of exactly what I'm looking for in a demo. A good enough look at the game so that I know just enough if it is for me or not. But I think I will be coming back to this one after I finish the video, so 9 out of 10. First, Berserker Khazan. For those who don't remember, and I don't blame you for not remembering because that is such an awful name for a game, I have talked about this one a couple of times, most recently when it showed up at the Game Awards and was introduced very unenthusiastically by the Russo brothers. I mean, Joe looks really excited to be here for a guy on horse tranquilizers. First Berserker actually looks like it's going to be a decent game. It is very Souls-likey, and I don't really do Souls-likes, so this game wasn't for me. But damn, the presentation and art style of this game was just completely on point. Like, there was this one time where I went to dodge an enemy's attack and I ran into a pole or something, and the scenery just crumbled behind me, and I was like, oh wow, I kind of didn't expect that. For what little I played of this game, I can see a decent amount of quality and effort on display here. As for what I don't like when games interrupt gameplay to tell me things that toddlers can figure out. Like, you know that tooltips can be displayed in real time, right? You don't need to stop the game to tell me how to press the dodge button. Look, if you're in the mood for off-brand Souls games, then I recommend you give this demo a shot. Good demo, but the game is not for me. 6 out of 10. Lost in Random, The Eternal Die is a fantasy roguelike game. It has a very similar feel to Hades. The game is extremely good to control. The player controls feel really tight. The combat feels smooth. It's a good sign in any game that I play that, if I take damage, then I feel like it's my fault for not playing the game right. Lost in Random, Eternal Die has a very good visual style. I particularly liked the designs of all the characters and enemies. It felt very fresh. What I really loved was the upgrade system, where whenever you choose an upgrade, you need to put it on this kind of grid, and all of the upgrades have a certain color, and if you match 3 in a row, then it'll make the upgrade stronger. I could see so much potential in this system. looks like it could be very, very fun to play with, especially later in runs. I really liked the voice acting. I thought the performances were very fun.
A dice wielder? Oh, luck has finally turned.
Sanctuary? Everything went dark and then we fell into a pile of junk.
Look, having known nothing going to this game, I really enjoyed this demo. This one is definitely going on the wish list, and I reckon I'll be covering this one sometime in the future. 9 out of 10. Reignbreaker. So I actually played this one a little later down the line, but I thought it best to put it here because the game shares a lot of similarities with Eternal Die. And that being it's a very Hades-inspired roguelike, has a very unique style, and the game even has the same publisher. But I did not like this game nearly as much as the last one. Reignbreaker's combat feels a lot less refined, and it just feels more sluggish. And though it started to get better over time with upgrades, the starting point of the character just doesn't feel great. I do like the very punk-inspired vibes this game was going for, and really the soundtrack was the biggest highlight for me. I'm not 100% sold on the yellow and pink color palette that this game seems to love. It's unique, I'll give it that. Some quick pet peeves. The UI got in the way of combat one time, and I could see it happening again. I don't love that. Enemy executions are just too slow. The animations and the speed of the executions need to be quicker and snappier so they don't break the flow of combat too much. There should never be a time where, like, I see the execution button come up and think, you know what, I don't want to execute an enemy. Although I feel like this game had much more to show me than I experienced in 20 minutes, my first impressions weren't great. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 because it was just better than average. Seraph In The Darkness. Before we talk about this game, I just want to play you the raw footage of what happened when I launched the game. Seraph In The Darkness is a top-down ARPG in the same kind of vein as Diablo or Path of Exile. The game feels like it is about 20 years old, that in it looks kind of arse, and it feels very dated in its gameplay. Obviously, these kinds of games are meant to be played over a long period of time to really feel the satisfaction of building up your character, but the starter gameplay felt horrible to play. It was really left-clicking and right-clicking for about 10 minutes. Having to connect to a server with over 100 ping probably didn't help. I don't know why the game needs a master server, and frankly I don't really care. I was more concerned by how non-player friendly any of the information about the game was just being thrown in my face. A lot of the stuff told to me felt like it wouldn't become relevant for hours. Also, while talking to NPCs, if you accidentally misclick off the text box, which is fairly easy to do because the text boxes are quite small, you will exit the conversation and have to redo it. I don't recommend this game to anyone. It sucks. Bad demo, bad game, 2 out of 10. Let's move on. Soulfall. This barely passes the bar for being considered a game. It's a Vampire Survivors slop title. I could spend the next half an hour talking about everything wrong with this game that I barely played for 10 minutes, but you could see the gameplay here. It speaks for itself. The character creator was probably the one almost redeeming thing that this game has to it. But even then, like, the UI for this thing is a mess. There's 3 different classes, but the game doesn't, like, do anything to tell you what these classes do. And I played 2 of them and I didn't feel any difference because I really couldn't get far enough into the game for it to matter, or maybe it doesn't matter, I can't tell. The game in its current state is just not good, plain and simple. I'm not sure what this game is meant to be, how early in development it is, what state the developer envisions the game being when it's finished. Considering this game is a demo for a game that is planned to be released early access at some point, I think that this game is way too early to be on the Steam store. Look, I'll give it a 2 out of 10 because the character creator gave me a bit of a laugh. Don't play this game. For all the games that I played throughout this video, I start my 20-minute timer once I hit the play button on the main menu. But if any game has the goal to install a separate launcher to launch its game for a demo, then it starts as soon as I see this launcher pop up. Not that this game needed any head start because I didn't even last the 20 minutes with this one. And that is with the game failing to launch correctly the first time, leaving me looking at this solid PNG for 2 minutes. Mecha Break felt like a fucking fever dream to play. I had zero context for the things happening. The game just blasts you with so much bullshit. The cutscenes were just nonsensical, the gameplay felt like garbage, and the sound mixing, Jesus Christ, I have never played any game in my life that has managed to peak my recorded system audio. I don't understand how that happened. The game's performance was stuttering to hell. For some reason, this game needs kernel level anti-cheat, which I wish I knew about before hitting the install button. I guess that's what I get for downloading demos at random, I guess. Look, the visuals look alright, but nothing about what I experienced made me want to go back for more. In fact, based on what I played, I don't think anybody should play this. And look, it really was the sound mixing that pissed me off the most, and so this one just gets you a big fuck off from me, 1 out of 10. Do not play this. Fellowship is a game that I have received a few emails about over the last few months, but I haven't bothered to check it out. This game is what you get if you take World of Warcraft, but it's just the dungeons with co-op PvE. It has a very old school MMO combat feel to it, tab targeting, threat management, you know, that kind of thing. If you've ever played WoW, you know how this game's going to play. The tutorial was enough for me to figure out that it's not really my cup of tea, but I do like the idea behind this game, and I think that there is a market for this kind of game. The art style is nice, the tutorial was very helpful at explaining the mechanics of the game, even if it was a little bit dry for me. But I think its dryness does come with the territory of how the game plays, which again, not my thing. I was never a very big WoW guy, but the dungeons were my favourite part of that game. And I don't think that's a particularly unique take, so that's why I think that this game has the potential to do well. If you're a fan of MMO combat, then I reckon you should check this one out. It's a good demo, but not for me. 7 out of 10. Forgotten Valor. I do not know what this game was meant to be. The game says it's a hybrid between a party-based RPG and a roguelike. I can tell you I spent the better part of 10 minutes spamming my spacebar to try and find any of that, only to be met with one of the most bizarre gameplay systems that I'd come across at this entire video. And look, the game just introduces all the mechanics that are very lightning fast. I don't think it was necessarily a good idea to front load this demo with a long and dense visual novel introduction. It seems like there is an interesting story going on, but I just really wanted to engage with the gameplay before I got interested by the rest. And look, by the time I was blindsided with the way that this game works, the game had pretty much already spent any goodwill I had going in, and I didn't care to continue with it. 3 out of 10, not a good demo. Gothic 1 Remake. So far, most of the demos I've played have been very handholdy and heavy on the tutorial side of things. Not this one. Not 2 seconds into this game, I'm accosted by some dude called Diego, and he tells me to go find a place to sleep, which seems like a simple task except for the fact that there's like no UI or waypoints or any direction from the game at all about how to really play it. Just kind of context clues from the conversation. Had I known that, I would have paid more attention to the conversation.
You're the guy they just tossed in, aren't you? No, don't say anything. I know it. You just got that what the fuck did I get myself into look on your face.
I've never played a Gothic game before, so if anyone has, can you tell me if it's normal for everyone in this world to just be like a bunch of assholes? In my 20 minutes playing this game, I spent most of my time talking to people and wandering around, very lost and very confused. But I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't having like a really good time being lost. Movement is a little bit too clunky for my liking, but the game looks great. The writing is good and I was almost immediately invested in what was going on. The game does need a lot of optimization work, but overall I was having fun, just being very confused for about 20 minutes. This is another demo I think I want to come back to at a later date and kind of get more of a handle on, but 8 out of 10, give it a shot. Wanderstop is one of my most anticipated games for this year. Made by one of the co-creators of Stanley Parable and the creator of The Beginner's Guide. Both fantastic games that I absolutely adore. I almost didn't want to play this demo just because the game comes out in a couple of weeks and I really wanted to go in fresh. And yeah, it was a bit of a mistake to play this. Not because it is bad, in fact it's the complete opposite. I had to tear myself away from it. I absolutely loved it. And now it's going to make the next few weeks torture, just waiting for Wanderstop to come out. That is if Davey Reedon doesn't want to chuck a cheeky early release review key in my inbox. Look, I know it's shameless to ask, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, alright? Wanderstop is a tea-shop management game, but the first 5 or so minutes of the demo is very story-centric. The game does a very good job of setting up the character of Atla.
This is what I devoted my entire life to. Finally, I'm here. I made it. I can... I lost?
And it is presented and voice acted in a very engaging way. And the game is very quick to start building the themes of what stress and burnout can do to a person. God, it is refreshing to see a game's writing have actual themes and ones that are like, it's so relatable. I'll touch more on this when the game releases because I really want to do a review for this one. Most of my time spent in the demo was making my first cup of tea, which was done in an almost ridiculously convoluted way, but it was fun. But what really blew me away was the art style and music. All of it is just top notch. Gameplay is the only thing I'm not 100% sold on so far. I needed more time with it, but I had to leave due to my, stupid 20-minute rule. Although I do think the more of the game that I leave for release, the better. I really do think that this game is going to be something special. 10 out of 10. I can't wait to play the whole thing. Despelote. I'm going to cut to the chase on this one. This is another 10 out of 10. I was absolutely blown away. It might not look like much. In fact, you might be looking at this and thinking I've just gone mad. But this is a game where the passion from the creator of the game can be seen everywhere. From the dreamlike presentation to the very unique setting and the very good and real feeling of the writing. Going into this game, I had no idea about the effects of the 2001 Soccer World Cup had on the country of Ecuador, and to be honest, I still don't, but I know how it felt because this game is that good at conveying the feeling of this little slice of history. The art style looks a bit whack at first, but the game has this dream-like quality to it, which utilizes the art style in a really cool way that I won't spoil because I really think that you should all go and play this game. The demo was able to strike a chord with me, and it only took 18.5 minutes. I actually finished the demo for this one, and I am on board wholeheartedly. This is a game made with love, and it has a unique story to tell, and I will be picking this one up on day one. 10 out of 10, go play it. It'll only take you 20 minutes, if that. Ruffy and the Riverside. I talked about this one a while back on one of the Summer Games Fest videos. I mostly called it out because I really disliked the art style, but what better way to see if this game has any merit to it than to actually give it a crack, and yeah, I didn't like it. The art style really just clashes with my brain. The game features the ability to take elements from part of the world and swap them with others, like turning a waterfall into a bunch of vines. Cool in theory, but in the small amount of the game that I played, it did feel very limited in its application. Granted, it could get better later on, but my eyes just actually couldn't handle this one. The control scheme felt a little strange. It feels like a character's moveset really needs to be refined just a little bit more. I think there is a set of people who will really vibe with this one, but it's not for me. But I will say the demo did a good job of giving me a look at what this game was really about. So look, I'll meet it in the middle and give it a 5. Wartorn is an RTS roguelike. Personally, I'm not a fan of RTS games. Not that I spent much time playing this one, because most of the time I spent in this game was in loading screens. Let's talk about the good. I liked the art style. The watercolor looking environment was pretty cool. I think the idea behind this game could have some merit. It reminds me of that one Dawn of War game that everyone hated, and putting a roguelike spin on it where you try and keep your units alive, kind of XCOM style, is something that can work. I cracked the shits with this one because the performance was a little whack, and in the second encounter of the game, these enemies threw up some kind of wall, and I tried to get my characters to walk around it, and they just auto-pathed through it, and pretty much almost all died. 3 out of 10. An Elaborate History of Chess is a civilization management sim where everyone is a chess piece. A bizarre concept for a game, but in execution it works very well. The game's pace is pretty sluggish, and as such I didn't really get to see much of where this game was going, or where the elaborate history was supposedly leaning towards, but there is a game worth trying here if you were into management sims where everything looks like it was made in a Flash game from 2008. It's a creative idea, and while again, not really my cup of tea, I personally probably wouldn't pick up the full game. I think this one is worth checking out if you're a fan of the, city management sim kind of games. And there is some dungeon combat further on down the line that I didn't get to see, but I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. Aethermancer is a roguelike turn-based creature collector RPG. This one sports an absolutely gorgeous pixel art style, and a very fun combat system. This is certainly one of those games where I had no idea what I was getting into, and after the 20 minutes was up, it was on my Steam wishlist. I really liked the monster designs, and I liked that a lot of the statuses on the RPG side of things had clear explanations on what they did. The combat is straightforward, but has the potential to have a lot of depth to it. I really don't have much bad to say about this one, and really just calling the game a roguelike creature collector should be enough to clue you in on if this game is for you or not. 8 out of 10. Is this seat taken? That isn't a question, that's the name of our next game, which is a cutesy puzzle game focused around helping a bunch of very needy people, or shape people, find their seats. Some of these shapes haven't showered, some of them hate smelly people, some of them want to talk to each other, some don't like being near kids. You get the gist. What I like is that the demo is very quick to get you into the game. The premise is simple and it's a bit of fun. Something that I really liked is that there are like kind of recurring characters. They give a little bit of a narrative through line throughout the levels. Something that's pretty easy to ignore if you don't care about, but also something nice for the people who do kind of want to engage with this world of shapes. And look, I found myself swept up by the wholesome vibes this game was putting out. It is a fun logic puzzle game that lets you take your time. Although I can't help but wonder why so many of these shapes just don't shower. Why is like everyone's hygiene so bad? The demo is actually short enough to knock out in 20 minutes. I managed to finish this one. I got a good sense of what this game is going to be and I want to play more. It's a shame that there's no more to play until the game comes out, so 8 out of 10. Wheel World. This one had a bit of a rocky start. When I launched the game, that there was the choice between launching the game in DirectX 12 or DirectX 11, with a note saying to choose DirectX 11 if I get performance issues. Rocking a RTX 4070 Super, I thought I'd be fine, considering the game looks like this. So I actually did have to swap to DirectX 11, and it didn't really help that much. This game does not run good on my machine, so I hope the developers really work on optimization before the launch of the game. Despite my rocky start though, Wheel World actually did win me over in the end. While the art style isn't really to my taste, I think the color work is tremendously good. The controls of the game feel a bit off to start, but the game makes a point that you are using a rusty bike, and once you get some new parts for it, the bike actually starts to feel better to ride, which means that the game has a good sense of progression, and eventually I did kind of, warm up to how the game controlled. The thing that won me over in the end was the soundtrack, and it wasn't actually really anything special. A lot of it felt like it was like progressive electronic that was probably made in like FL Studio, but damn if it didn't just tie together the experience and, complement the gameplay to a T. I really would like to see more of this game once it's better optimized. I'm gonna go a 7 out of 10. The game has potential. It's really just the performance that was kind of dragging my experience down with this one. Bowling Simulator. This game is hands down one of the biggest pieces of shit that I've ever had the displeasure of playing. Just why? It's slop. There's no other word for it. Look at it. The bowling physics don't even work correctly. The ball just phases through pins sometimes. The game doesn't even use the frame system of scoring in bowling. You just do 10 goes and then the game ends. Somehow I made it to the end, only to be greeted with a "you won" and some victory music. What did I win? I was playing by myself, against nothing. I certainly didn't win at life because I finished out this quote-unquote game, even though I knew right from the first turn it was going to be utter rubbish. Out of morbid curiosity, I checked the Steam store for this game, and some of the things I found worth noting was that the game's cover art was made with AI. What a shocker. Because even when a bowling ball knocks over pins, usually they get knocked away from the ball and not fall back towards it. The other thing I found was that the game is going to be launching into early access and that it plans to be in early access for 1.5 years. Hey, do you guys want to hear a fun fact? Wii Bowling will turn 19 years old this year, and this demo was released in the year 2025. Delist this off of Steam, 0 out of 10, what a waste of my fucking time. The Knightling. This one was another surprise. I had no idea what I was getting into when I played this one. This game is a 3D adventure action platformer. It's weird to call it a platformer when the game is so very open world focused. It's based on a kid knight and his talking shield, trying to prove to everyone he is more than just, you know, a knightling. It is very cute. I really loved the art style. The world of this game looks gorgeous and is vibrant with life and a lot of people walking around. But hands down, the best part of this game is the traversal. The knightling is able to surf on his shield, and wow, this is just a very satisfying way to move around the world. It was so much fun. The performance was a little bit of an issue for me, which is starting to make me wonder if it's not just the games and it's my rig, but hoping it's not my rig. Look, tangible things I can complain about in this one is the combat. I'm not really a fan. It does feel a little bit too heavy. The ranged attack is also strange. There is auto lock if you are using a controller, but I found that the shield just sometimes just doesn't go where the aiming reticle is aiming. These are all fixable things. This game does really feel like an early PS2 adventure game throwback, just with a newer generation shine to it. There is a lot to like, and I would absolutely like to see more of this one. This is an 8 out of 10. Monaco 2. Damn, does anyone remember Monaco? 12 years is well and truly past the point of releasing a timely sequel, but sure. A sequel to Monaco. While it has been a long time since I have played the first game, I definitely felt the spirit of the game with the sequel's demo. You know, a co-op stealth game where things can go from okay to bad to chaos in a second. While not as quick and snappy as what I remember from the first game, there is still a bit to like. This one will be a bit more fun with friends, but I didn't really find this one grabbing me that much. Although the first game in the series didn't grab me that much either, so this one will be a 6 out of 10. Darkest Days. I don't actually know what this game is like because it straight up didn't work. Okay, it might work, but I refuse to link my Google account to a game just for a demo. Like, why have a guest option if it doesn't work? I mean, it says I'm banned if I select guest, which, like, okay, whatever. 0 out of 10, the game didn't work, and I'm not counting this as one of my 50 demos. Anyway, I'm just putting it here because I don't think anyone should download this. Dragonkin The Banished is another ARPG. This time we have a pretty alright one. Maybe it's because the other one I played was just so rubbish that it made this one look so much better. I mean, giving me a very satisfying to use flamethrower staff at the beginning of the game also helps. The part of the demo I played does feel like it is meant to be an extended power fantasy of what the game is meant to feel like towards the end game. But I had a bunch of fun with it. The game looked good, it played pretty good. You know, I'm not a very good CRPG player, so I apologize for what you're seeing here, but I'm not Elon Musk and I don't have enough money to pay someone to make me look good at playing this game, so. The story was a bit of a weak point for me. Throughout the sequence of gameplay that I played during the demo, we have a narrator just dropping lore on us constantly, and after a while it just started to become noise. It was very heavy-handed on the fantasy names and terms, and it was super dense. Something that I really liked is that when I launched the game, it was very upfront about what to expect in the demo. And I do like when launching a demo, you know, they say, hey, this is what we're going to be offering you. Here's what not to expect in the demo, but will be available in the full game. Decent demo, but who knows if the rest of the game is actually this good, but I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Descenders Next is a sequel to the downhill biking game Descenders, this time opting to put us on snowboards. I'm a huge fan of the original game and the gameplay translates very well to snowboarding. I apologize for the absolutely woeful gameplay you are witnessing. Like the original Descenders, the game has a bit of a strange control scheme that takes a while to pick up, but once you do, the game becomes very fun and very rewarding to play. I had no idea this game was coming out, so it was a pleasant surprise, and I had a lot of fun playing it. Trust me when I say that this game is much better than what I'm making it look like. The music is filled with licensed drum and bass and electronic tracks that fit the mood of the game perfectly. The art style it does the job. The presentation of this game is much cleaner than the first game, and the game does a lot better of a job explaining how the overworld and the kind of roguelike elements work. Although some of the tricks and mechanics could use a bit clearer messaging, but I think this one is well worth a try if you're kind of craving a snowboarding game, or if you're a fan of the original Descenders. 8 out of 10. This isn't SSX tricky, but I'll take it. The 100 Line Last Defense Academy is a story-heavy, turn-based RPG. a bit of Persona, a bit of Danganronpa, and a bit of Fire Emblem. This is another demo that really front loads a lot of the story cutscenes that I had to start skipping to get to the gameplay. Even so, I was actually still pretty engaged with the story of what I was able to piece together. The turn-based gameplay of this game, not so much, although I didn't really get much time to play of it, just a few of the battles. The way the story is presented is very slick. There is a lot of style to the cutscenes and the UI. The character designs and personalities are a lot of fun of all the characters. There was this one character called Darumi, who has a very emo Jinx kind of I can fix her vibe, and she was an absolute standout. She's definitely one of those characters, probably be very hit or miss depending on who plays this game, but I think her voice actress absolutely killed it. Every character in this game seems kind of just unhinged, which is a lot of fun. I don't know where they're going with the weird as hell twins. It's leaning very incesty. I'm not sure about those ones. Look, I'm hoping the gameplay gets better, but I'm surprised that I've never heard about this game because there is a ton of effort and polish put on display here. The full game is pre-orderable and it's priced as a premium title, so it kind of makes sense. But the publishers and developers need to put a bit more of a marketing push behind this game because I think it's got a lot of potential. The problem that I have with this game is how it kind of acts as a demo, and it's less of a demo and more of the first part of the game, seeing as you can just transfer the progress that you gain of this demo into the full game when it comes out. Look, this game seems like it's going to be good, and despite front-loading the demo with so much story, it managed to pique my interest, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Shape of Dreams. I actually lost time playing this game. The 20 minutes went by so quickly. Shape of Dreams is by all means a pretty stock standard roguelike game. It almost plays like a MOBA. I mean, there are MOBA controls, but you can opt for WASD, which I think was the way to go. The controls are very tight, abilities pack a good punch to them, and I only got to play 2 characters, but both felt very, very good to play. Where Shape of Dreams sets itself apart is the ability to socket passive gems onto your character's abilities. This is a really cool system, and I like that as soon as I was introduced to it, it kind of sparked that theory crafting part of my brain. Like, how broken could this system get? This one was very easy to pick up, play, and understand how everything worked. The most complex thing about the game is how the game chooses to, name everything. I think abilities were called memories or something, and the gems are called fragments or some. I don't know, I'm just kind of naming them how I think they were named. It doesn't really matter. The visuals in this game are great. The music also set the tone very well. It's also co-op, which I'd be keen to give that a go at some point. Shape of Dreams takes a 9 out of 10 for me. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Genokids is an action hack and slash game with an anime-ish kind of style. I didn't really like what I played of this one. The combat felt off. The actual controller bindings were just a little bit strange. This demo felt like I was playing a very unfinished version of the game. The environments felt very bare. The monster designs were and the AI was kind of just felt very non-reactive. The abilities didn't really gel well with the combos. The game's sprint system was also really strange. There was like no button for sprint. The characters would just like kind of speed up over time like I was accelerating in a fucking racing game. I think if the combat could get tightened up a bit, then the game would be worth playing, but for me, at the moment, I didn't really like it. It felt like I was playing a half-finished version of, what was that game? No Straight Roads. It wasn't until I looked up Genokids that I realized that this game was made by one of the developers of Mecha and the Witch's Mountain. Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry. I swear I'm like not out to like mess with your game development career. Look, I just think this game needs a lot of work, and as someone who came into this demo with 0 expectations, this is not a game that I want to play. I don't think it's irredeemable. I just think that the game needs a lot of work. So I'm going to put this at a 4 out of 10. Afterblast is what you get if you cross Doom with Returnal, or, it's a less cartoony version of Gunfire Reborn if you've played that. It's a first-person shooter roguelike with decent enough gunplay. Our character has the ability to execute low-health enemies with a hook to regain health and shields. Yet another game where the execute function is just really awful. It really just looks like we're bouncing off of them with our stomach, like we're a couple of dude bros that just like sculled a can of beer. This needs to be faster and punchier. It's kind of the same as the last roguelike game that had bad executions. Other than that, there really wasn't much standing out here for me, but I did get a good gist of how the game works. It felt very middle of the road. If this game came out and it was like $10, then I would give it a try. Decent demo, but the game just really failed to hook me in. 5 out of 10. Monsterest is a hotel management sim where you run a hotel for monsters. This is another game where the time just kind of flew by. Most of my time was spent doing the usual crafting things like chopping wood, mining stone, contemplating how to discreetly murder this rat that somehow roped me into doing all the work managing this place. Jokes aside, this game was very chill and it felt very wholesome. I don't know why the first guest in the game really wanted to learn how to chop wood or why they liked chopping wood so much, but hey, if they want to help out, that's, fine with me. Cute art style, the characters were written in a really fun way, the music is nice and relaxing, and then there is a little bit of intrigue into learning everything about the world. It was a good time, even if most of the demo was spent doing the usual starter crafting things. If you are a fan of games like Stardew Valley, I think this one will be worth giving it a go. 7 out of 10. Seekers of Skyveil is a loot extraction MOBA that I really did not like. Most of that comes from the fact that I was not able to find a game where lag and ping weren't an extreme issue, despite the fact that I turned global matchmaking off. And even though it is a PvEVP game, I only ever saw 2 enemy players in the 2 games that I played. There is an idea here that could work, but I swear I see a new game like this like almost every year. Look, this is probably one of my least favorite variations on the MOBA outside of the standard MOBA formula. I'm going to give this demo a 3 out of 10 and an extra sad kangaroo for having terrible matchmaking and bad ping. Nice day for fishing. I was really surprised to see the Viva La Dirt League logo pop up when I launched this game. If you don't know who they are, they're a New Zealand sketch comedy YouTube channel. I love these guys.
Why would someone put a penis in the snow?
Yeah, it is actually disgusting. I bet you never saw that coming!
Although I'm not 100% on how much they had a hand in this game, you can definitely see some of the VDL crew's likeness in the NPCs, and you hear them do some of the voices. The game is definitely imbued with a good bit of humor. In this game, we are Balin, a fisherman NPC in an MMO game whose only dialogue consists of
Morton,
and
nice day for fishing.
And due to some funky stuff going on, the MMO loses all of its real adventurers and somehow transforms Balin into the only person who's able to be an adventurer. And so we're off to go save the world or something by fishing. It's a really funny game. The combat has a decent start to it. It's all based around fishing, of course. I did have a look at the trailer for this one after playing it. It looks like the gameplay does get a lot more wild than what I got to see. The music in this game felt very old school RuneScape inspired, which I really liked. Yeah, look, this one was a really good surprise. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. Cheese Moon is a game I downloaded just because of the name alone. Like, come on, Cheese Moon. I don't know what I expected. I mean, the splash screen for this game was probably about what I expected. And I was a little concerned when most of the game was in another language when I started it up. Luckily, there is a settings menu with the option to change the game to English. Cheese Moon is a game about a bunch of rabbits that can clone themselves to go fight cheese. It's a fun enough game. I definitely felt a bit of a headache coming on after playing this one. The color scheme and the chiptune music, it just wasn't really a good combination for the senses. I will say that the story wasn't bad. The different rabbits had clearly different personalities that were a bit of fun. The gameplay is very slimline. You just kind of spawn a bunch of rabbit clones and then you have to use their abilities when they charge. I mean, I guess it really does kind of play like a bit of a mobile game, and it is just kind of fine for what it is. 5 out of 10 would be worth picking up if the game is, $5 to $10 on release, I guess. It's okay.
Hey, how it going, bro? Trolleys. Give me 5, bro.
Among Us 3D. Yeah, it's Among Us, but in 3D. It was already technically a thing with the VR version of the game, and I think that there are plans to make the 2 versions compatible at some point, but yeah, everyone's favorite gaslighting simulator is in 3D with voice chat now. I joined a random lobby and it played out like any other game of Among Us that I've played did. The game is really, really dark for some reason, and I think it's to give imposters a bit more room to kill in the 3D environment, but it just did feel like way too dark, like I couldn't really see any of my surroundings the entire time. Anywho, if you've played Among Us and liked it, then yeah, I would give this a shot. The proximity chat does open up a whole new dimension for playing with random people that I do kind of like. I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Hey, you. Hi. I is going on?
Redneck Brawl Turbo is yet another Vampire Survivors clone. This one felt like it was designed by someone who was just permanently drunk, which is probably why most of the characters look like they just have scoliosis or something. Unlike the other Vampire Survivors clone I played way back towards the start of this video, this one actually has some character to it. Problem is that it is just not fun to play. The AI pathing just seems kind of random. The game and all of its designs just look really ugly. And I get that maybe the point, but I don't want to look at any of this. The music might be the worst offender of the game. It sounds like some random like MIDI harp that has too much reverb. It was starting to put me to sleep. The UI and menus of this game also just look kind of atrocious. I would warn anyone against playing this game unless you were, extremely drunk. I didn't find any joy playing this one, and I doubt many others will either, but I'll give it a 3 out of 10, just because it looks like there was some effort made in trying to make the game. Paperklay is a 3D adventure platformer with one of the most creative art styles I have seen in a game for a while. Well, a creative art style that's not offensive to the eyes anyway. I have seen this one pop up now and again throughout gaming showcases, and to be honest, I didn't love it. Don't get me wrong, I think there is an immense amount of talent and love for 3D platformers on display, but unfortunately, for me, the gameplay for this game isn't really grabbing me. Most of that stems from the character's movement just being way too slow. The entire time I felt like I was playing the game at half speed, which in a game with a bunch of collectibles makes the tedium set in very quick. The main collectibles also have a very tight hitbox to them, which, just kind of made me not want to collect them. Especially the ones that pop out of boxes. Like, you'll break a box and they'll spread out and you need to kind of manually go get them. Either make the hitboxes bigger or have some kind of magnetized function just to kind of rake them in a bit more. Don't let all this negativity detract from the fact that there is, an immense amount of love and craft in this game on display, but the gameplay side of things just need a bit more refinement. But unfortunately, I don't know how that happens because it seems like the rest of the game has already been kind of built out. Look, I'm rooting for the developers on this one, but it's a 6 out of 10 for me. Man, we are on our 35th demo, and I'm starting to get a little exhausted playing so many video games. Maybe I should check out this game, Monmusu Auto Battler. Like, what better way to recharge than to play a game that doesn't actually require me to play it? I feel like getting mad at an auto battler for having bad gameplay is like getting mad at water for being wet, but we're gonna do it anyway. It looks and plays like a mobile game. Monmusu Auto Battler is just a bunch of chibi girls running into monsters over and over again, and there isn't really any strategy to it. The battles last for like 10 seconds at a time, which means that every time you start a new battle, hear the start of the same battle track over and over again. There's a story that I didn't really pay attention to because it wasn't really that good. It felt like a lot of things were mistranslated. I guess most people who downloaded the game are here for the scantily clad anime girls, but I mean, come on guys. If that's what you're here for, there's better stuff out there than this. Look, 3 out of 10 is technically the game it advertised itself as. Nitro Gen Omega is one of the most confusing turn-based strategy games I've played. I think most of that comes from the very clunky UI, and I'm not usually a fan of very hand-holdy tutorials, but I really felt like I needed my handheld for this game. The overworld in this game also has something kind of wrong with it. I don't know why, but the airship just looks blurry and it's kind of hard to look at. I don't know what happened here. The gameplay in this game is a mix between crew management on a mech and a turn-based combat system. The crewmates are, kind of XCOM style, randomly generated with the ability to die if things go wrong during combat. While the combat is played out in a kind of planning phase where you pick on a timeline the things that you want to happen, and once you do, yours and the enemy's movements will then play out. I really like the presentation of how the combat plays out. The cutscenes are a real fun way to see it all, kind of happen. Even if it always did end up with most of my crew dying and ending in my defeat. The user interface for everything is slick looking, but it is just convoluted. I like the idea behind the game, I just feel like the way it introduces everything and gives information could be done a lot better, because it really does feel like I'm trying to break through a brick wall to try and enjoy it. 5 out of 10, not a great demo, but a decent game might be hiding in there somewhere for the people who have patience to learn it. Hey, do you remember that game, that old Xbox Live Arcade game, Marble Blast Ultra? Well, get ready for the We Have That at Home version, Marble Dash. Can you tell that I'm starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel yet? I didn't fully hate this game, it's just really, really bland. The physics are whack, the ball is too quick to speed up while the turning is just really lacking. Marble Blast Ultra is 19 years old and this game isn't doing anything better than a nearly 2-decade-old game. I'm not saying that the developer shouldn't make a game like this, I just want to know why they think it should be on Steam when, let's be honest, there are a bunch of other clones doing it better. 3 out of 10, kind of fun physics, but unless this is going to be free, then I wouldn't bother getting interested in this game at all. PUBG Blindspot. Alright, before I show you this game, I want you to try and guess what genre this game is. I'll give you a hint. The title has nothing to do with it. If you guessed PUBG Blindspot was a Rainbow Six Siege clone done in an isometric style with character classes, then you already knew about this game. Because what the fuck? PUBG as a franchise just kind of means nothing, I guess. This game is surprisingly not a complete dumpster fire. It's definitely incomplete due to there being missing music cues, the presentation and UI just kind of not being up to snuff. It's not so much a demo and more of an alpha or maybe even a proof of concept to see if people would actually want to play something like this. And it's got potential as long as they work on making it more than just a Rainbow Six Siege clone. The gunplay works, the idea is solid, and as much as I hate to say it, they do actually have something here. But they need to work on shortening up the dead air between rounds. As for what the game is now, I wouldn't spend any money on it anytime soon. Look, I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. It is one to keep an eye on, but it's not one to get excited about. Moorhuhn Kart 4 is a kart racer, and I contemplated leaving the description there and moving on, because that's all there is to say about it. It is just a very bland kart racer. Supposedly there have been 4 of these games. Kind of out of curiosity, I went to look it up, and apparently Moorhuhn is the German localized name for a string of games called Crazy Chicken, which does ring a bell to me. I don't know if I played any of these games, but I certainly remember seeing them on the shelves in Blockbuster stores back in the day. Looking at the Wikipedia page of this is a trip. There are so many of these games. And it's wild that there is a subgenre of Crazy Chicken games dedicated completely to gambling games. What the hell? Right, so Kart Racer, yeah, it's 4 out of 10. It's pretty bland, generic. Neo Junk City is a point-and-click adventure game where we play as this busty robot for some reason. I really love the synthwave aesthetic for the game, and the story, believe it or not, was actually pretty interesting. Most of my time spent playing the demo was learning how to play the mini-games, which I guess will probably come into play later. This is another demo I do not have much to say on. I feel like point-and-click adventure fans might like it. The writing seemed good to me. A detective-style murder mystery story is a good fit for the genre. That being said, I have not played many point-and-click adventure games in my time, so I can't really speak overall quality of what I played. I'll just say that I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Intriguing plot and a drop-dead gorgeous art style has gone a long way into making this something that I'm really interested in playing. Good Worker is yet another game that should not be on the Steam store in any capacity. I feel like if I play too many of these slop games, then eventually I'm going to get a crypto miner or some kind of malware installed on my PC. The fact that I can stand still for a whole ass minute taking bullets to the face point blank without dying should tell you all you need to know about this game. It's slop. It's rubbish. I know Steam lets anything on its store, but come on people. Show some decency and just don't flood the store with this rubbish. I'm sure this little Unity project will get you a C- in your high school project. 1 out of 10, delist the game off of Steam. Isopod is a physics-based platform adventure game. So you see this Screen Queensland logo right here? This means that this game, where you play as an isopod with a magnet strapped to its back that can use magnetism to fly around a garden like Spider-Man, was funded by the Australian government. God, I love our arts program. Start with the good. The physics are really fun to play around with. There is a lot of momentum physics-based movement. Anything that is metal you can levitate towards, and you can also curl up in a little ball and roll down hills. And all of it feels very satisfying. The physics are very well done. I do feel like the presentation is lacking a little bit. The white on black text boxes for the animals chatting feels like it's contrasting too much against the style of the game. Look, the game does have a very stripped back approach to everything, which I don't mind. but I think I would like to see a little bit more dialogue between the characters. The demo doesn't really give us much story to go off of, and I don't know if that's because it's not a part of the demo or that's just going to be how the game is on like launch. Last thing I want to talk about is the animations. They're pretty good. Like, I love the walking animation of our character and how they look when they walk up hills or inclines or they're turning around. Look, people who don't like insects or any creature with more than 4 legs are probably gonna hate this game, but I liked it. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Haste Broken Worlds is yet another roguelike, but this is probably the most unique one we've seen yet. It takes the movement system from a game like Tribes and then just turns that into its own game. Satisfaction of the gameplay is key to making this game work, and you know what? I absolutely love this one. The idea is solid, but the execution of the movement and controls, it is so simple, yet so satisfying. And the soundtrack just ups the intensity and really sets the tone of the game. Look, it's a buy. I'm buying this game whenever it comes out. This is from the team at Landfall, who did Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, and a few people on the team also developed Content Warning. I was sad when they said that they were effectively ending support for Content Warning, but if Haste is the game that we're getting because they want to work on this instead of Content Warning, then yeah, like, okay, I can't believe I'm doing this, but Haste gets a 10 out of 10. In 15 minutes, which is how long the demo goes for, unless you kind of screw up royally, I went from not knowing this game existed to wanting to know when it is coming out and how do I buy it now.
Oh, come on. Mr. Palmer left the car in reverse. Okay, let's give it another try.
Deliver at all costs had a hard act to follow, but you know what? This demo was also really great. This game is an open worldish isometric driving game with an emphasis on chaos and destruction. Knowing absolutely nothing about this game going in, I was taken by surprise when the first car I jumped into was reversed into a building and then took the half of the thing down, and then nobody, not even the main character, even seemed to care. The story of this game is kind of too early to tell if it's going to be good or not, but the voice acting is absolutely superb. The main character in particular does have a lot of charisma. I like the 1950s aesthetic of the game, and it's definitely a time period we don't see too much of in games. Look, the only fault that I could find while playing the demo was the facial animations. They are kind of borderline terrible, but the rest of the game is a really fun ride. The sandbox in particular feels like it was made with chaos in mind, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. This one's a 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it. Tempopo is a logic puzzle game where you use these pink lemming things to collect flowers for you. They'll move in certain directions unless you give them specific block commands. Not the most original premise. It's definitely something I've seen done before in a lot of games. The presentation of this game is very wholesome and has some very catchy music to go along with it, but as far as logic puzzle games go, I could just kind of take it or leave it. There really wasn't much to say about this one. It is a 5 out of 10. Kemono Teatime is a cozy tea shop management game. So far in the demo, it plays less like a game and more like a kind of gorgeous pixel art visual novel, with a couple of ASMR tea making segments thrown in every now and then. The game presents itself as a cozy and wholesome game, but it often makes references to things like plagues in the outside world, and for some reason the currency is also pills, which is just a little bit concerning. Most of my time spent playing the demo was really just a kind of a slow burn introduction to a lot of the characters, but I was really drawn in by the atmosphere of this game. It has the vibes. As for things I didn't like, the game can only run in a maximum resolution of 1080p, but because the game is pixel art based, having it run full screen on a 1440p monitor didn't look too bad. The English translations do need to be cleaned up just a little bit. There were a couple of weird sentences here and there that felt a little bit broken, but other than that, I thought this was pretty good. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Yes, Your Grace Snowfall is a kingdom-based management game where you need to balance the needs of the people against your own resources and goals. Yet another game with a very good pixel art style, although I can't say that this one was grabbing me that much. I didn't mind it, the writing was good, the music was very fitting, I just don't think this one is really for me. But I will say that the demo does give you a pretty good idea on what the game is going to be like. It's going to be a game about making difficult decisions. And someone who struggles with easy decisions to make, like what do I want for lunch, The fate of a whole kingdom is a bit too much stress for me to bear. Speaking of bears, there is a bear in this King's Common area, and I have no idea why, but it just kind of sleeps in the corner. I'm sure there's a reason for this, but I couldn't tell you why. 6 out of 10, good demo, but the game isn't for me. Glom is a game about kicking shit into people, or about kicking people into shit. Pick one. Self-described as a first-person booter. That's a good one. I like that. You kick a lot of things. This game is actually really fun to play. The physics for the most part work and are very rewarding to play around with. It has a very loose and goofy feel to it. Although I found the music in this game lacking and some of the level design of the levels to be a little bland, especially the first one. The big open caverns make sense, accommodate the physics sandbox, but the big plain walls are very just kind of bland to look at. But the game is solid as far as gameplay mechanics go, and it is well worth a shot if you want to kick a bunch of stuff. A 7 out of 10. Alright, so you might have noticed by now that I have not played many survival games, especially not survival crafting games. This is because the first hour of every single one of those games is almost exactly the same. You pick up some sticks, you pick up some rocks, you mine stone, cut trees, and I knew that if I played any survival crafting game, the 20-minute rule wouldn't really be fair to those games in particular. Solar Punk, which is a game that I've been interested in trying for some time, is a game about surviving on floating islands in the sky and building airships to be able to travel between them. From the trailers I've seen, this looked like a pretty standout type of survival game, but the only thing I got to do in my time playing the demo was hit rocks and chop trees. And I planted some crops as well, I guess. For starters, the chopping and mining animations are a little bit pathetic. It does really seem like my character could get this stuff done faster if they just put some oomph into it. I found it weird that in order to research new items, you need to put resources into it, but you don't get the item out of doing that. I think a better idea would be to have the item cost more resources the first time you research it, but you actually get the item out of it. And then have it cost less resources to build subsequent versions of the item. I got caught in a bit of a choke point about 10 minutes in where I had to collect cotton. There wasn't a lot of it on the map, so it meant I had to farm and wait for it, so I paused my 20-minute timer and I left the game running while I had to, use the bathroom and just to give the game a shot to catch up. But the crops hadn't grown by the time I got back. So this game really had no hope. In the 20 minutes I played, all I got to do was experience a very generic survival crafter in need of a couple of quality of life fixes. To give the game props for something, the art style, it was very nice. I liked the look of the environments and the music had a very soothing feel to it. I'm going to be generous and give this game a 5 out of 10 because I probably shouldn't have tried this one, but the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they're just going to be the same as every other crafting survival game. The final game we have today is Neon Apex Beyond the Limit. And before I show you what the gameplay of this game looks like, I feel like I have to give a warning to anyone who is photosensitive to skip this game in this part of the video. There are chapters, just go past it. I'm not an expert on what is seizure inducing or not, but this game definitely feels like it is. Neon Apex is a racing game that really fucking hurt my eyes to look at. The character models in this game look like they were torn out of that other turn-based mech game that I talked about earlier. They have the exact same randomly generated feel to them. The gameplay of the game is not good and it has a very bland feel to it. So bland, I thought I was missing something in the controls. So when I went to check the controls out, I got stuck in this screen. I think I accidentally unbound the controls from my controller trying to get out, so I swapped a keyboard, but none of the buttons I pressed on my keyboard didn't let me escape the screen either. I was trapped and I had to restart the game to fix it. The music was the only part of this game that didn't feel like it was an offense to the senses. Look, the art style could be fixed a bit. I would recommend removing the neon dots and the striped road. I think that will smooth out the eye strain people will get from playing this. I get that they are trying to make you feel the speed of the game a bit more by having these things here, but even going max speed with Nitro activated, I wasn't feeling the speed anyway. I quit out of this game once I was given a second vehicle to play, which was the bike. It played exactly the same way as the car. So, although I feel like I really should have just quit when the victory screen just kind of blinded me with the whole track when it turned from black to white. Yeah, look, this is not a good game. I'm giving this a 2 out of 10. Alright, that's it. We did it. 50, or technically 51 if we count the one that I launched but didn't play, demos over 2 and a bit days. So what did I learn by doing this other than I shouldn't have done this? Well, I relearned the fact that there is a lot of garbage on the Steam store. Shovelware, half-baked mobile ports, and just straight up broken games. There's just so much rubbish. But for those willing to dig around a bit, there are some real gems here, and I was personally surprised by quite a few games that I had no idea existed. To make things easier for you all, I'm going to put all the games and their ratings right here as a list in case you may have forgotten about anything. My favourite demos were the ones that just kind of got to the point quickly. Just small concentrated looks at what the game is going to be. While demos that have a lot of content are good, and some of the demos I played had hours of content in them, quite a few of them just took way too long to get to the point. Demos are first and foremost a marketing tool, and I feel like if any part of a demo is going to be a bit of a slog, then I know that the full game is also going to be just that, a bit of a slog. I hope you all found something here to check out, and look, if there was something here that caught your eye that I didn't particularly like, then, go and check it out for yourself. Gaming is a subjective medium, but if you go and play some of these games, then let me know what you thought of them in the comments, and let me know if you agreed or disagreed with any of my takes. Alright, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, then give it a like, and if you're new, then please think about subscribing. Thank you to my YouTube members, Controlled Killer, Yellow, and Melodia. And if you think that my content is worth supporting more than just a subscription, there is a YouTube membership. Perks are on the screen. I also have a community Discord server which is free to enter, as well as a Steam curator page that I use to post some of my takes and reviews that might not make it into full videos. Links to everything in the description below. It's probably going to be below the time code, so you might have to scroll a bit. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you all next time with something that's hopefully going to be smaller and easier to make, because Jesus Christ, I had a week off work and I chose to do this instead of relaxing. Oh dear.